Some of these Soviet planes were tiny, old, or downright bizarre, but they would end up dominating the skies of World War II. From nimble biplanes and fearless gliders to the infamous armored flying tanks, starting off with fighters and interceptors. Polikarpov I-5. This biplane fighter was ancient by 1941, considered totally obsolete, yet desperate units still flew it as a makeshift night bomber during the initial German invasion. Polikarpov I-15, a tough little biplane known as the Chateau. It earned its reputation during the Spanish Civil War. When World War II began, it was quickly relegated to training and coastal defense. Polikarpov I-153, the legendary Chaika, or Seagull, one of the last successful combat biplanes ever built. Its extreme maneuverability made it a low-altitude menace well into 1942. Polikarpov I-16, known to pilots as the Ishak or Little Donkey. This compact, snub-nosed monoplane was the Soviet Union's primary fighter in 1941. It took heavy losses, but proved incredibly rugged and surprisingly dangerous in capable hands. MiG-1, an early and troubled attempt at a high-altitude interceptor. It suffered badly from stability issues. It was quickly modified into its more famous successor, MiG-3, a difficult machine to fly, but a stellar performer at altitude. This aircraft excelled above 15,000 feet and was vital for defending Soviet cities from high-flying German reconnaissance planes. Lag-3. The cruel nickname for this machine was Lakirovny Garantirovny Grob, the varnished guaranteed coffin. Early pilots complained it was heavy, sluggish, and underpowered. Later upgrades with better engines would drastically improve its fate. Next, Lavochkin La-5, a dramatic wartime transformation. Designers took a lag airframe and successfully bolted on a powerful new Shvetsov radio engine. It instantly became a major turning point, giving Soviet pilots a fighter that could finally match the Bf-109. Lavochkin La-7. Many experts consider this the finest Soviet piston engine fighter of the war. Highly agile, very fast, and extremely deadly. The top Soviet ace, Ivan Kozhedub, scored most of his 62 kills in this machine. Yakovlev Y-1, the simple, reliable foundation of the entire Yakovlev fighter family. Its excellent handling and high rate of production made it crucial for clawing back air superiority in the desperate days of 1942. Yakovlev Y-3, incredibly light, powerful, and responsive. This aircraft was an absolute menace in close combat at low altitude. German pilots received specific orders to avoid dogfighting with the Yak-3 below 5,000 meters. Yakovlev Yak-7. Initially conceived as a tandem sea trainer, it was easily converted into a capable frontline fighter. Its ruggedness and dual-role nature ensured its widespread use across the Air Force. Yakovlev Yak-9, the most mass-produced Soviet fighter of the war. Versatile and adaptable, it served successfully in roles from long-range escort to dedicated tank busting thanks to its large 37mm cannon variants. Continuing with ground attack, Ilyushin Il-2, the famous Shturmovik, or flying tank. This aircraft was designed entirely around its armored bathtub cockpit. It instilled pure terror in German ground forces, becoming a symbol of Soviet resilience and industrial might. Sukhoi Su-2, a relatively obscure light bomber that suffered heavy losses in the initial invasion. Derived from a reconnaissance prototype, it was quickly replaced by more robust designs like the Pe-2. Ilyushin Il-10, the late war successor to the Il-2. Sleeker, significantly faster, and better protected. It participated heavily in the final offensives into Germany and later in the Korean War. Moving on to light night bombers and trainers, Polikarpov Po-2, known affectionately as the Kukuruznik or crop duster, incredibly slow, quiet, and maneuverable. The famous Night Witches, all-female regiment, used this simple biplane for constant, terrifying harassment raids under cover of darkness. Polikarpov R-1, a dated biplane design based heavily on the British de Havilland DH-9A. Long obsolete by the start of the war, it saw brief service only in training and liaison roles. Now, Polikarpov R-5, a standard, rugged biplane used primarily for reconnaissance. It was widely used for photo mapping and artillery spotting. with some still pressed into light bombing duties in 1941. Polikarpov RZ, a modernized, slightly sleeker version of the old R5 design. It featured an enclosed cockpit and was mainly used for observation and light ground attack duties before the invasion. Yakovlev UT-1, a very simple single-seat monoplane trainer. It was used to introduce new fighter pilots to the higher speeds of modern aircraft, with only a few adapted for emergency liaison work. Now, this is the Yakovlev UT-2, the standard tandem seat basic trainer. This essential aircraft taught thousands of pilots how to fly before they graduated to Yak and Lavochkin fighters, critical to the Soviet pilot training pipeline. Up next, Yakovlev Yak-3, a small twin-engine utility transport built largely from wood. It specialized in transporting urgent supplies and personnel behind the ever-shifting front lines. Now, let's look at frontline dive bombers. Petlyakov PE-2, the most important Soviet light bomber of the war. Fast, highly successful, and capable of precision dive bombing. Its speed made it difficult for early German fighters to intercept. The next one, Petlyakov PE-3, a dedicated heavy night fighter and reconnaissance variant of the famous PE-2. It featured specialized cameras and heavier forward-facing armament for bomber interception duties. The Arkhangelsky R-2. This was a deep modernization of the older SB bomber, featuring improved dive bombing capabilities and better aerodynamics. Its frontline career was quickly overshadowed by the superior PE-2. Tupolev Tu-2, an excellent high-performance twin-engine medium bomber. It was superior to most contemporaries, but its entry into service was delayed by production issues. It became a primary Soviet bomber late in the war. Now, let's look at medium, long-range, and heavy bombers. Ilyushin DB-3, the primary Soviet long-range bomber before the Great Patriotic War, the direct predecessor to the famous IL-4. It was used extensively for long-range missions, including early raids on Berlin in 1941. Then Tupolev SB, one of the most advanced bombers in the world during the mid-1930s. By 1941, it was badly aging, yet it served extensively in frontline combat, often incurring devastating losses due to its light defensive armament. Then Yermolayev YR-2, a heavy, long-range bomber designed for high-altitude operations. It was often plagued by issues with its unreliable Shturmovik diesel engines. It still participated in early strategic bombing missions. Petlyakov TE-8, the only four-engine Soviet heavy bomber built and operated during the war. Used for prestigious, high-profile missions, it was a potent symbol of Soviet strategic reach and dropped the massive 5,000-kilogram FAB 5000 bomb. Tupolev TB-3, a massive, very slow four-engine heavy bomber biplane, completely obsolete but incredibly durable. It was famously used as a night bomber and for carrying parasitic fighters in the Zveno experiments. Next, Tupolev TB-1, a very early twin-engine monoplane bomber from the 1920s, entirely obsolete by 1941. It was strictly relegated to utility transport roles throughout the war. Next up, Reconnaissance. Yak-1R, a specialized reconnaissance version of the original Yak-1 fighter, adapted with internal cameras for high-speed photographic missions near the front lines. Yak-9R, a dedicated tactical reconnaissance variant based on the highly successful Yak-9. It provided high-speed protected observation, essential for fast-moving Soviet ground defensives. The next one, Yak-9D, the extended-range variant of Yak-9. The D stood for Dalny, or long range, crucial for escorting Lend-Lease bombers and deep penetration missions later in the war. Up next, Petlyakov PE-2R, a specific variant of the light bomber adapted for dedicated reconnaissance. It carried specialized cameras in place of bombs for high-speed photo runs. Now let's look at naval aircraft and seaplanes. WWII MBR-2, a reliable single-engine flying boat. It earned the nickname Sea Cow due to its rather clumsy appearance. It performed vital coastal patrols and anti-submarine duties across all Soviet maritime frontiers. WWII B-2 KOR-1, a compact, short-range scout seaplane designed for shipboard catalog launches, primarily used for observation duties from Soviet cruisers and battleships. WWII B-4 KOR-2, a later, much-improved Katalot-launched observation seaplane, faster and more robust than its predecessor. It was widely used for artillery spotting and naval reconnaissance. The Chetyarikov MDR-6, a fast twin-engine reconnaissance flying boat with a modern, streamlined design. It served extensively, patrolling the vast Soviet northern and far eastern coastlines. Next, Shavrov SH-2, a small, versatile amphibian biplane, heavily relied upon for liaison, medical transport, and utility work in remote, hard-to-reach areas like Siberia and the Arctic. Moving on to transports and utility. Lisanov Il-2, the Soviet-manufactured version of the American Douglas DC-3 airliner. It formed the true backbone of Soviet military transport, absolutely essential for supply drops and paratrooper operations. Tupolev PS-84. This was the exact initial designation of the Soviet-built DC-3 before it was renamed Li-2, a critical military transport asset from the very beginning. Shcherbakov She-2, a simple twin-engine transport designed specifically for operations from short, unprepared airstrips. This aircraft was excellent for reliable, consistent front-line resupply missions. Finishing off with gliders. Antonov A-7, a medium-sized assault glider often towed by older bombers like the SB. It played a vital role in delivering troops and urgently needed supplies to Soviet partisan groups behind enemy lines. Gribovsky G-11, a smaller utility transport glider designed for simple mass production, mostly using wood. It was crucial for secretive missions supplying guerrilla fighters deep in the German rear. This was every Soviet aircraft that fought in the Great Patriotic War.